In the quiet town of Cairo, a woman named Zuri led a simple life. A librarian by profession, she was known for her love of ancient artifacts and forgotten legends. One evening, while cleaning out the dusty attic of the old library, Zuri stumbled upon a mysterious box. Its ornate carvings were faded, yet they whispered of ancient times and forgotten secrets. Inside, she found 3 intricately designed masks, each one crafted from materials unlike anything she had ever seen before. An inscription on the lid caught her eye. "To wear is to become." Curious, Zuri took the masks home. She had read many stories of magical objects, but never did she imagine finding one herself. That night, she gazed at the masks laid before her on her bed. Each one seemed to pulsate with a quiet, alluring power. Little did she know, her life was about to change in ways she could never have foreseen. Zuri couldn't resist the pull of the masks. The next morning, she carefully selected the simplest of the 3, a mask made of wood, adorned with delicate etchings. As she slipped it over her face, she felt a tingling sensation spread through her body. When she looked in the mirror, she gasped. Staring back at her was not Zuri, but a woman of great beauty and elegance. Her clothes had transformed into a luxurious gown, and her face was flawless. She ventured outside, feeling a strange confidence she had never experienced before. People stared in admiration as she walked by, and she realized with awe that she had become someone entirely different. But as the day wore on, she started to notice the burden of maintaining this new persona. People expected her to be perfect, and the weight of their expectations began to crush her. For days, Zuri continued to wear the mask of beauty, reveling in the attention it brought her. She was no longer the unnoticed librarian. She was a goddess in the eyes of others. Men and women alike were drawn to her, and she enjoyed the power it gave her. But with that power came a loneliness she hadn't anticipated. No one saw her anymore, only the mask. She tried to connect with others, but every conversation felt hollow. People didn't want to know Zuri. They only wanted to bask in the glow of her beauty. Frustrated, she returned home one evening, tossing the mask aside. For the first time, she questioned if beauty was truly worth the emptiness it brought. Determined to explore the limits of the masks, Zuri decided to try the second one. This mask was made of gold and sparkled in the dim light of her room. As she put it on, a new sensation coursed through her. When she looked in the mirror, she saw a powerful leader, a queen, draped in regal attire with a crown atop her head. She felt an overwhelming sense of authority. The world outside bowed to her commands, and people treated her with the utmost respect. She was no longer just admired, she was feared. Yet, with power came challenges Zuri hadn't anticipated. Wearing the mask of the queen, Zuri felt the weight of responsibility. She was constantly making decisions that affected others, and though people obeyed her without question, the pressure was immense. Every command felt like a heavy stone placed on her chest. At first, she enjoyed the control. But soon, she realized that power came with isolation. The more she ruled, the further she distanced herself from those around her. She could no longer trust anyone, as even the most loyal subjects seemed to harbor ulterior motives. Zuri began to understand that power, like beauty, was not as glorious as it seemed. Each night, Zuri returned home and stared at the masks. They had given her beauty and power, but both came with their own burdens. She was beginning to lose herself in the identities they provided. Who was she without them? The masks had opened doors to worlds she had never known, but they had also shut her off from her true self. Zuri wondered if she had made a mistake in taking them. Yet, the allure of transformation was too strong. She couldn't stop now. There was still one mask left. The third mask was the most mysterious of all. Made of black marble, it was heavier than the others and exuded a strange, almost ominous energy. Zuri hesitated before putting it on. What would this mask transform her into? Was she ready to find out? With trembling hands, she placed the mask over her face. This time, the transformation was unlike anything she had experienced before. When she opened her eyes, she was no longer in her familiar surroundings. Instead, she found herself in a dark, ancient temple, surrounded by shadowy figures who whispered her name. Zuri had become a sorceress, a being of immense magical power. Her hands crackled with energy, and with a mere thought, she could bend the world to her will. The temple around her seemed to respond to her presence, shifting and changing as she commanded. For the first time, she felt truly in control. But with this newfound power came an even greater burden. The shadowy figures around her whispered of her destiny, of the responsibility she now bore as the wielder of ancient magic. Zuri felt the weight of their words, and for the first time, she feared the power she had sought. As Zuri explored her new identity as a sorceress, she began to understand the true cost of magic. Every spell she cast drained her, not just physically, but emotionally. The power was intoxicating, but it also consumed her. She could feel the darkness creeping in, threatening to take over her very soul. The whispers of the shadowy figures grew louder, urging her to use her magic for their purposes. Zuri resisted at first, but the temptation was always there, lurking in the back of her mind. She had never imagined that such power would come with such danger. One night, after a particularly draining day, Zuri ripped the mask off in frustration. The temple vanished, and she was back in her small, quiet home. The masks lay before her, but now they felt like burdens rather than treasures. She realized that with each transformation, she had lost a part of herself. Zuri sat in silence, reflecting on her journey. She had experienced beauty, power, and magic, but none of it had brought her the happiness or fulfillment she had expected. The masks had shown her the dangers of trying to be someone she wasn't, and now she had to find a way back to herself. Despite her realizations, Zuri found herself drawn to the masks again and again. Each time she swore it would be the last, but the allure was irresistible. She told herself she could control it, that she was stronger now, but deep down, she knew the masks had a hold on her. She wore them in secret, switching identities for brief moments of escape, but every time she returned to her real self, she felt more fragmented. The boundaries between Zuri and the personas the masks created were blurring. Zuri's friends began to notice changes in her behavior. She was no longer the quiet, thoughtful woman they knew. Instead, she seemed distant, lost in her own world. They questioned her, but she brushed off their concerns, unwilling to reveal the truth. At night, she stared at the masks, wondering if she had lost herself for good. She wanted to be Zuri again, but she didn't know how. The masks had given her everything she thought she wanted, but they had also taken away the most important thing, her sense of self. Determined to regain control, Zuri devised a plan. She would destroy the masks once and for all. It was the only way to free herself from their grip. But as she gathered them up, she felt an overwhelming sense of dread. Could she really let go of the power they offered? She hesitated, staring at the masks in her hands. They had given her so much, but at what cost? Zuri knew that if she didn't act now, she might never escape their hold. Zuri tried to burn the masks, but they were impervious to fire. She smashed them against the ground, but they remained intact, as if mocking her efforts. Panic set in as she realized just how powerful the masks truly were. They were not just ancient artifacts. They were alive in some way, bound to her. She needed help. But who could she trust with such a dangerous secret? Desperate, Zuri sought out an old friend, Amara, who was well versed in the occult. Amara listened intently as Zuri explained her predicament. After a long pause, she nodded. "These masks are not ordinary magic," Amara said. "They are bound to you now. Destroying them won't be easy, but there may be a way." Amara explained that to sever her connection to the masks, Zuri would need to perform a ritual at the temple where they were created. It was dangerous, but it was the only way to break their hold. Zuri and Amara set off on a journey to find the ancient temple. It was located deep within the forgotten forests, a place few dared to venture. Along the way, Zuri began to feel the pull of the masks more strongly. They whispered to her, urging her to turn back, to embrace the power they offered. But Zuri pressed on, determined to be free. The journey was long and treacherous, but finally, they arrived at the temple, the very place where Zuri had once stood as a sorceress. Inside the temple, Amara prepared the ritual. The masks lay in the center of a circle, surrounded by candles and ancient symbols. Zuri felt the power of the temple surge through her, and for a moment, she was tempted to put on the mask of the sorceress once more. But she resisted, focusing on the ritual. As Amara began to chant, the masks started to tremble. The ground beneath them shook, and the air crackled with energy. Just as the ritual neared its end, the shadowy figures from Zuri's visions appeared. They surrounded her, their whispers growing louder. They offered her one last chance to embrace the power of the masks, to become whoever she desired. Zuri hesitated, the temptation overwhelming. But in that moment she remembered who she truly was. Not a queen, not a sorceress, but Zuri. She rejected the masks and the power they offered, choosing to be herself. With Zuri's decision made, the ritual completed. The masks shattered, their pieces disintegrating into dust. The shadowy figures screamed in fury before fading away into the darkness. For the first time in months, Zuri felt a sense of peace. The weight of the masks was gone, and she was free. She had regained her identity, and with it, a newfound understanding of herself. Zuri returned to her quiet life, but she was no longer the same woman who had discovered the masks. The experience had changed her, teaching her the value of being true to herself. She no longer needed to wear masks to feel important or powerful. She had found her strength within. As the days passed, Zuri felt more connected to herself than ever before. The masks were gone, but their lesson remained. True power came not from being someone else, but from embracing who she was. Rate this story from 0 to 10 and drop your comments below about it.